Nyoom Nyoom, it's me Nyoom. We're gonna watch Hive Cities. Is it real? Reality of Fiction by Dami Lee. This one got recommended to me by YouTube, and I was curious about the explanation of how this would be possible, because it reminds me of like Kowloon, the walled city, you know? Also, I got reminded about that food video that we watch about the solar fat. So, yay! Let's see what this is about. Oh,
So a lot of you requested that we look into this absolutely mind-boggling fictional place called Hive Cities.
Hive
it's a
Cities,
massive multi-level structure that contains anywhere from billions to tens of billions of
where people
in
live.
these dense, layered communities. At the top, you have the elite, and below,
Of course.
and even further down into this
Oh,
underhive, people are reduced to
underhive.
their most primal forms.
That's why they eat the solar fat. Oh no!
Suffocating and fighting for survival.
You
The more
see,
I look at it,
that's the squatter area. If you know what a squatter area is, if you live in the Philippines, or like, well, just so you know, like, there's a place here called like the squatter area, where the really poor people live, and like everything is jam-packed and made out of like scrap material. The houses are made out of scrap material, and they are very prominent in Manila.
it reminds me of a living organism, a sick, parasitic, cancerous organism that feed off the planet while the people feed off the city and off each other.
Ooh,
The architecture
parasite.
and humanity are intertwined in this disturbing, endless cycle of growth. It's almost a caricature of a dystopian city. But it makes you wonder,
Caricature of
is this
dystopian city.
architectural construct completely
Dude, are we
fictional?
headed there?
Or
Ooh.
does it show a glimpse of what humanity is capable of when it's forced
Dude, ooh, maybe it is. I feel like this is very close to reality.
to think about nothing but survival? Hive Cities is from the universe of Warhammer 40k, and they're set on these planets 40,000 years into the future. And it paints
Yes.
a picture of a society that's pushed to the extremes. First of all, there's this constant war between factions
Yes,
that just
always
never
war.
ends. It's
No
also
no
sprawling
happiness.
with factories that's spewing out toxins,
Mm-hmm.
and it's extremely dense, and there's just not enough resources.
Extremely dense.
But the population just keeps growing, and as it grows, they have no choice but to keep building taller because they're constrained
build
by
up.
the wastelands around the perimeters.
They only build
A
up.
lot of the resources we looked at compare Hive City to this idea of an arcology, which is a
Arcology?
blend
Ooh.
of architecture and ecology. The movement started in the 60s by an architect called
Ooh, feet.
Paolo Soleri. In essence, it's the concept of this self-sustaining, high-density city that's
Self-sustaining high-density city. Isn't there like a concept like that they were trying to do? The line. It's supposed to be like self-sustained, right? And it's just a line. Like this. It's very thin, and it's gonna be on the expanse of the desert. There's gonna be greenery, and there's gonna be houses in it. Arcology, eh? It's been around for a long time.
contained in this single megastructure. They would have everything you need in
Megastructure.
a city, like homes, shopping malls, entertainment, schools, or food production. And by compacting everything into a single structure, it could be very efficient and also have a very low environmental footprint. This is one of the few attempts at building it in real
Arcosanti?
life. And
Oh, it's
although
real.
Arcosanti was a really cool place, in the
Oh, that
end,
looks pretty cool,
it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
very small community of 100 people, and it doesn't come nearly as close to the original vision of a city that evolves and functions as a living system. You might have
Ooh.
seen this building. It's the New Orleans Arcology
Kevin
Habitat,
Shoptar.
aka NOAA, and it's kind of
Sheesh.
a poster child for this movement.
That's a strange structure. Why does it look like that? What about
We have
all
had
this empty space in the middle for ventilation? I guess so, right? It looks like it's gonna fly away at any moment. It looks like a triangular spaceship and it's gonna fly away when the Earth is dead. You know? It's gonna take all the rich people in it, fly away.
aka Noah. And it's kind of the poster child for this movement. In addition to being an arcology, it's a response to the rising sea level. So it's a floating arcology designed to host 40,000
Oh,
people.
it floats.
This
It's
is the
not gonna
Shimizu
fly away.
Mega City Pyramid. And here we have
Shimizu?
Crystal Island by the architect Norman Foster, who also
Crystal
designed this
Island.
building. But most of these projects never became a reality because it's too complicated.
They never
and
tried it,
expensive.
huh? Yeah, I'm
But
sure it's gonna
when
be
you look
really
at the
expensive.
grand
I
vision-
mean, the line is. I don't know if it's still under construction. They're probably still working on it. It seems like they're still working on it, but it's gonna take a lot of resources to actually make this thing happen. It's very ambitious, that's for sure.
Of arcology, Hive City does have some parallels.
Arcology,
It's
eh?
high density, it's self-sustaining, all inside this single megastructure. But it's the dystopian version. And the ironic
dystopian?
part is, in Hive City, it's the structure that actually leads to a lot of the problems. For example, all the rich people, they live at the top.
Of
And the
course.
rest, they live at the base.
The rich
And
live at the
these
top.
poor humans, they live or they survive in this underhive.
Oh, the
Apparently, they're also forced to
underhive.
consume water and food that trickles down from the top.
Oh,
That's been recycled like 1,000 times. It does make
Oh, she's talking about it. It is super funny.
recycling sound kind of sinister, doesn't it? So, in
Oh.
Hive cities, the structure itself is what leads to this massive divide between the classes. And it turns things that should be a basic human right, like light and fresh air, into luxuries. But I think it actually addresses an inherent
Oh, yeah,
issue with some
the
of
line,
these
the
new
line.
vertical megacity
I knew
projects.
it.
For example, in the
She's gonna
Lime
talk about
project
it.
that's currently under construction in Saudi Arabia, we see a similar situation. It's an entire city contained in a single megastructure that's supposed to be 500 meters tall. But that
500
means the
meters
people at the
tall,
lower
wow.
levels could have little to no access to daylight, naturally
Yeah.
creating the social divide.
No daylight.
Also, hive cities lead to a complete ecological collapse from the massive toxic output from the factories, so it's kind of the opposite of arcologies in that regard. But I think the biggest difference is the growth, which arcology doesn't really address.
Yeah,
It
how
kind
about
of
the
assumes
garbage?
that the population
Just throw
size
them
is going to
outside?
stay the same, contained in this single structure for hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
maybe it's designed more for the short term, like 50 years. But in that case, is it really sustainable?
No, I don't think so. It's not sustainable,
There's
dude.
a concept in architecture that's a direct response to rapid and unregulated growth. Metabolism.
Growth.
It started in
Metabolism.
Japan in the
Ooh.
1950s when Tokyo was dealing with a huge influx of people
God, this
migrating
video is
to the city
amazing.
after the war. To try to solve this problem, a group of Japanese architects proposed a pretty radical solution. It looks at the city as a living, evolving organic system that could expand and react to changes. They reference biological organisms like trees, and a lot of the designs were systems with a permanent core structure and modular, adaptable
Ooh.
units that could grow and even
Modular
retract,
units.
like branches and leaves. These proposals were pretty wild. This one had these mega spines that spanned
That reminds me of another structure in Dubai.
across Tokyo Bay, with residential modules that could be added or sunk depending on the size of the population. This one took a more vertical approach, but again, with spines that would allow for these residential capsules to plug in to the core. And maybe if
Plug
hive
in?
cities were planned from the start with a structure that
Oh!
would guide this crazy growth,
There is that hotel,
we
yeah, yeah.
would have ended up with something that's not pure chaos. But at the same time, most of these metabolist projects never actually got built because it was really complex and it required way too much planning. Plug in and plug out seems like a simple enough idea, but It means you
Modular
need to
city.
fabricate them and transport them and deploy a machine to attach them every time they experience some kind of population growth.
It would be really interesting to have like that kind of structure though. Like a modular structure, you just add more parts if you need more rooms. You just gotta plug in like, oh, I want a room here. You just plug in there. And if there's more people, you just gotta put more and more blocks in the structure. Eh, that seems really interesting in concept. Although, yeah, how do you make that happen? Where do you where do you actually get those modular stuff? Because it's manufactured like in similar size, so they can slot in in a particular area. For example, if one of the modules is like destroyed or it's not working anymore, maybe just replace it with another module. Hmm, sounds like a video game.
Meaning, you would need the construction companies, the infrastructure, the
Yeah,
regulating bodies, and the transportation systems all working together seamlessly.
Also, it needs to have a lot of structural integrity. Structural integrity, dude.
And even for the Japanese, it was too much. And I think we can all agree the Japanese are the best people in the world at creating order out of chaos. So imagine
yes,
how hard
yes.
it was for these hive people who basically drink recycled pea water every day to try to build something
No,
complex like
not the pea
this.
water.
In fact, this chaotic and sporadic nature of Hive City might lend itself better to a slightly different concept.
Is she gonna
Hold
talk
on.
about Kowloon? The World
Apparently,
City?
Hive Cities start
Probably
their
not.
lives around this geothermal core. And
Geothermal?
very quickly, settlements get built around this core, stacking layer upon layer upon layer. And as these cities grow, they drain these cores, and they eventually deplete the planet at an urban level. Because people are just building to survive. You also get a condition where buildings are built quickly and sporadically. Structures attached to each other, or they hang under bridges or factories, which can
Living
lead
here,
to the
there will be
collapse of
dangerous.
buildings
I mean,
and
also here, of
sometimes
course.
entire neighborhoods. At the societal level, we have a similar cycle. The poor feed off the scraps that come from above, and the elite, they rely on the labor from below. So Hive Cities is
The
parasitic
spire.
in nature of its host and in of itself.
It's like auto-cannibalism, eh?
And one of the inherent characteristics of parasites is that because they depend on the host for survival, they leech off the host to the point of harm, but not immediate death. And this relentless
just
cycle
make
of
everyone suffer?
exploitation
Oh.
leads to a slow and painful decline. Kind of
Oh.
eerie, right? But the parasitic architecture movement, yes, that's a real thing.
Oh.
And it forced our researcher to look at a lot of really gross images on the internet.
Oh,
It
no.
doesn't necessitate the harming of the host. In
Parasitic
fact,
architecture.
it
What
has
the hell?
very humanitarian roots. This is one of the first built instances from the movement, which became popular in the 60s and 70s.
Dude, this looks like a cat window, you know? You attach this outside your window so your cat can look outside.
It's a nursery that hung off the facade of an apartment
nursery?
block
That's
'cause
dangerous.
The family couldn't afford a bigger apartment. You know when you look at a problem in a city, let's say the housing crisis, and you're like,
Oh,
just
no, the
build
housing
it with
crisis.
this. Why do we have to go through approvals and through these people and just waste so much time? This was an architectural manifestation of that frustration.
That looks so
because
dangerous.
these structures could be erected quickly and they typically resisted zoning regulations and bylaws, it was kind of an architectural middle finger to the establishment.
Oh my god.
There were
That's scary.
definitely stylistic elements to the movement, where architects just tried to design structures that were in complete contrast to the host building. But a lot of the projects were also just a hands-on attempt to solve real social problems. Like inflatable structures
the-
that's made possible by attaching to a building's
What the-
mechanical exhaust, or using a billboard to act as a partial enclosure for temporary shelters.
Imagine living behind a billboard. That's big brain.
But can you imagine what cities would have looked like if this trend kind of took off? Actually, I think it'd be kind of cool. Well, in hive cities,
That would be
these
interesting, yeah.
parasitic structures overtake the host. There's actually parts of the Warhammer lore that's a reference to this blackout period where
Oh,
this
there's more
shift
under
could
there.
have happened.
Oh.
And with this
the
uncontrolled
energy.
survival building, the host structure will eventually fail. Apparently, hive quakes are common instances
Hive
where
quakes? Oh,
complete
shit.
neighborhoods are just smashed under the sheer weight of these parasitic modules, killing hundreds of thousands of people at once. So hive cities embody a paradox. The more they grow, the more they implode under their own weight. In biology,
Oh.
there's this phenomenon called autophagy. It's a process where
Autophagy?
cells break down and consume its own tissue, often in response to
Ooh.
stress, starvation, or disease.
Oh,
But this
that's
self-feeding
morbid.
mechanism is a survival tactic, and it's essential for it to clear out the damaged parts and continue sustaining itself.
It's all about survival. Ooh.
Hive cities echo lots of positive urban concepts, but in the context of survival, it's morphed into something dark and twisted. It reminds me of this economic theory called the tragedy of the commons.
Tragedy of the
Imagine
commons.
a
I've
small,
never-
lush pasture with 3 happy
Never
sheep.
heard of that
As soon
one.
as you introduce a couple
Tragedy of
more,
the
though,
commons.
they start to eat more grass. There's more poop on the land, and
Oh.
the pasture, or the
boobies.
common land, it gradually degrades. This affects all the sheep, even the ones that were thriving before.
Oh,
And if
poor
this
sheep.
continues, the entire system will collapse. The tragedy is that in most cases, when people
Tragedy
are
of the
just trying to
commons.
survive, they have no choice but to consume more than their neighbors. And I think it's made even more tragic because it speaks to a primal human instinct. And
Oh, if there's like little resources, when you were just gonna survive, you're forced to survive, you just wanna take everything. And so, if one like person takes most of the stuff, the whole thing collapses because only one person gets all the food, for example. But in reality, it could be divided among a lot of people. But people are not like that, so.
Hive City is the
It's tragic.
architectural manifestation of this theory. But according to Sam Altman, we're entering this age of abundance where all of our basic needs are going to be covered and AI is going to provide everything
Uh-oh.
we need.
Uh-oh.
Maybe
AI.
we're not even going to have to fight for resources.
I don't know about that.
Separating us even further from our instincts for survival. But as we become more and more reliant on this technology, what happens if AI decides to stop helping us? Will
Oh,
our
shit!
instincts come back? Maybe even stronger than before. Even stronger than before.
They're gonna
Even
fight back.
stronger than before. Even stronger than before.
Uh-oh.
Even stronger than before.
Uh-oh. It's the mechanical's time.
What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments.
Oh my god, that's a
And
really
thanks
cool
for
video.
suggesting Hive Cities. It was
Hell
pretty
yeah, I love it.
dark, but interesting. Also, we have a Discord server and a newsletter.
amazing.
We'll leave the links in the description. And with that, we'll see you in the next video. Bye!
Ah, that's amazing. That's a really good video. I love the way she broke down all the concepts. Metabolism, arcology, parasitic architecture. I didn't know about this word before. These words are my first time hearing of them. I've only seen about this arcology thing because of the line, because this is so popular. What if this building is like a train and it's not just a building, it also moves through the desert? I don't know, man. It's interesting. What a good video. Reality or fiction? Ooh! It might happen. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Like and subscribe. See you next time. Bye. This is the ending song. Ending song. This is the ending song.